But you have the Joey Chipman, what would you call them, stunt drivers? Oh, and no, I'll sit there, and way back in time and all that, they had what they called a figure eight. You know, like, and you watch the crossroads, you know, and all that. And now that's exciting.
So when you got married on your birthday, did you go live with Rocky then, or did Rocky live with you and your parents?
Oh, I was with Rocky even before.
Okay.
Yes.
When did you move out of your mom and dad's house? How did that go?
The wedding night, yeah, we went down. I had my own little house. We had, Mom had helped me stock with food and all that, yes.
Before the wedding?
Yeah.
So the last night you spent in your mom and dad's house was the night before your wedding.
Right.
And then you had your wedding and you went to your home that you now have.
Right.
Okay.
And plus three or four of my cousins.
Do you remember the address of your first house with Ronnie?
Well, we had our mail delivered. It was 186. It was where we went down to the post office. In fact, I have that picture, you know, where my little post office was in Larmer. In 186, we had to walk down there to get our mail. So that's you just want to get Larmer, PA, you know. I mean, 186 Larmer.
Is the house still there?
Yes. Yes.
That's kind of
My mother helped Ronnie and I sell it, you know, and when because we bought that from his parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the house is still there that you first moved into. Okay. All right. So now you and Ronnie are happily married. You graduate from high school. Did you guys go on a honeymoon?
No.
No. What was your first?
We were just happy to. Yeah.
What was your first big adventure with Ronnie?
My first.
Like whether you took a trip somewhere, your first big let's go do this. We're adults now.
We just went to housekeeping, and he went to college there for a while down in East Pittsburgh, and he was I only had him 16 years, so, and we moved up in Meadville in 1953.
So you're married in 48.
Yes.
48 or 49?
48.
Married in 48, you moved to Meadville in 53.
Yes.
Okay. When you guys were still dating, engaged, early marriage.
No, we didn't move to Meadville in 63.
53.
Yes, 53. Oh, I'm sorry.
What was he doing for a job when you guys got engaged, when you got married?
Looking for one.
My
mother was trying to get him a job.
How do you have the money for a ring?
I don't never ask him. That's why I wouldn't go with him.
Was a hitman for the mob?
I could have been. No, he was too straight. No,
Did he ever gamble? What was the worst part about Ronnie?
Sincere. I could. What he told me, I believed was the truth, and it never doubted him. And he believed in me. I mean, you know, he stuck with me. In fact, we were coming home from McKeesport, and I think I had Keith. And my mother and dad were in the front seat, and my Aunt Peg was in the back seat of his car with me and my son. And when Dad turned the curb, I knew he was going to go up over the curb with his back wheel. And I said something. I said, "Dad, you're going to hit the curb." And my mother bounced all over me And my dad did stick up for me that time. He said, "Well, she did tell me, but I mean." And see, I didn't get the backing. I was pretty well on my own.
Yeah.
With my thoughts and and so I didn't look for too much. We were just happy to, putting the tree up. I was just happy being on my own.
So you guys got married, you graduate. When did Ronnie get a job? Like his first big full-time job?
He went to work at at Glassport. It was with my Uncle Holly. And at that time, though, they were laying people off and all that, and people older than Ronnie, they must have had a union, and he was still working. And we both got the idea that Uncle Holly, because he was Uncle Holly, he was still working, you know. And shortly after that, but when I met him, he was working up in Jeanette, Pennsylvania, at a glass company, Jeanette Glass. And, but I don't know, he got that job, I think, after he worked with Uncle Holly. He went to college too there, you know, and
The GI Bill paid for that?
yes.
Because Ronnie was in the military. Did Ronnie go to Europe, or did Ronnie...
No, he was on the transporter. In other words, they transported troops. He crossed over 13 times, but taking them over and bringing them back.
Was that the Navy or the Army?
The Navy.
The Navy, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then he came back, and that's when you met him.
Yes, well, when the war was over and all that, and yes.
Was he assigned to one ship, one transport ship?
The Wakefield.
The Wakefield.
The Wakefield.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And you said you knew of Ronnie before he came back, right?
No, not exactly. I knew his brother, but not him. No. And when he came back, I didn't know him hardly at all when he came back. I knew to see him, and it was my girlfriend Betty, and we cooked up the blind date bit, you know, because how do I know he wants to meet me? I mean, I'm not going to make arrangements to meet him, and maybe he doesn't want to be bothered. You know what I mean? I'll hold back.
How long after you got married that he got the full-time job? Oh, because he went to college for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then so you just decided to work?
Yes.
So you graduated, he's in college, you guys have the tiny house, and then you're working to support the family while he's in college.
Well, I got $16 a week. And when Ronnie would come this is before we got the car, and he would get off the bus in Irwin, and he would come up and we'd have dinner. He'd have dinner where I worked, you know, and we charged it to my boss. You know, I mean, he let me do that. He took it on my pay, though, you know. but we just kind of. But at this work is when it was an old Greek. And he would have a special dinner like spaghetti today and maybe
roast tomorrow.
Yeah, you know, variety, you know. But downstairs he covered chocolate covered cherries. He made chocolate covered candies, and he had a great big, like a butcher, you know, but made out of marble. And he was I've done that, you know, and all that. That was fun. I liked him, you know, and.
Was that your first job?
More or less.
What made you go there? So you have the house, you're graduated, you're married, you got the house, and then you're like, I need to go look for a job, right?
Yeah.
And then how did you get your first job? Did you read about it in the newspaper, or was there a help wanted sign?
No, I think no. I don't know. I just walked in and you know, and just say I would like to work, you know, or something, and I think I got myself into that one, but I really don't remember.
It was a diner?
Yeah, it's more.
What was the name of it?
The Sugar Bowl.
The Sugar Bowl.
It was more than they served beer, and they sold like sodas and what do you call the ice cream and
so it was a soda jerk.
Yeah,
okay.
Part of that, and they sold beer though, and you know that's a smart move because a lot of back then, the men of the family would like a beer, but the lady would take the kids in. So they made sundaes is what I was talking about. They made sundaes and sodas and stuff for the kids and all that, and we didn't have potato chips and stuff. No, hanging around like that.
And a Greek guy owned it.
A Greek.
You remember his name?
Yeah, George.
George. You remember his last name?
No, we just
George.
Yeah.
And you were a waitress.
Yes.
And you had never waited tables in your life before.
No.
How'd you know you could wait tables?
Play by ear, I guess. Well, actually, my worst time being a waitress is when I worked at called Williams's. Now that was a tavern, you know, and But the bartenders there were so good that when I went up to the bar and all that, and I had to order a Smith's and a Pabst, and it came out Smith's. Or Smith's, anyhow, it came out, and he puts his hand in the cooler, and he figured me out, It was more like Smith's and Pabst, something like that, and he, I was in a hurry, and it was fun in there because I didn't know one whiskey from the other, and still don't actually, but I had fun.
Why'd you leave the Sugar Bowl?
I was going to have my first child, and when he laid me off, and could go up and get unemployment till I started to really show, because you have to be ready for work to get, and I wasn't going to go back to work, Yeah.
Okay. So how long were you married when you had Uncle Keith? Uncle Keith's the oldest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you had Uncle Keith first.
Mm-hmm.
How long were you guys married before you had Uncle Keith?
About 2 years.
And what made you decide, because at this point Ronnie was working, or is he still in college?
I think he's still in college. He really didn't get a good steady job till we moved up here. That's why we got a job up at Meadville. We used to bring friends up, and I liked around water. I have Lake Erie, and I have Canadota, and I have Sugar Lake, and Pymatuming, and and take, almost every time we could, put some swimming trunks on your kids and take them and all that. It was easier to raise kids when you took them someplace,
So,
and
Ronnie was born in 50? I'm not Ronnie. Keith was born in 50?
Yes.
Okay.
October, late 50.
Okay. And you were the only one working at the time?
No, Ronnie was working at Talon.
Okay. There you go.
No, we got the job up here at Talon when we moved up to Meadville.
But you moved to Meadville in 53. Keith was born in 50.
Yes.
So who was working? How did you support a family when Keith was born?
The GI Bill.
They would pay him to go to college. He'd have extra money to support the family.
Well, we got $111, and then they misunderstood Ronnie when he went and told them we were going to have an increase, the baby, and they dropped us down to 75. Oh, I did some. That's why I went to work. To survive until we got up here.
Yeah. Okay, so Keith's born in 50, and then you had Chris too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Keith, then Chris, and all of that was while Ronnie was getting the GI Bill, $111.
Yes.
Okay, and then what made you go to Meadville? Why Meadville? What was going on? What out of the middle of nowhere?
Yeah.
You go from basically Lamar, which is Pittsburgh,
Yes.
90 miles north to Meadville. What? Why?
Well, my aunt helped us buy a car, and we got this 1951 Plymouth, and we would take my friend up here to Meadville. Her mom and dad bought this house, and then they got wind of there used to be an old post office. It was on a corner lot or a corner ground, and we would bring them up because they had no transportation, and we had so much fun. We would stop along the road from Larmer to Meadville and get a bushel of cantaloupe or a bushel of tomatoes. We have tomato sandwich, or we just eat cantaloupe. And we had so much fun. And then we find a place to go take the kids swimming. And up there is kind of all my life in different schools and all that. It just seemed to be, and I wanted to put my kids in school, the same school that they would graduated, because that's not what I had, And one day, my friend and all that went and looking around, and we passed this big tree, we were in the car going around Mayville, and this big tree was in this yard with a for sale sign on it. And I said, "Hey, Stella, let's go and see what money talks," because it looked like to me, what was it? It wasn't overly big. And when I walked in, I fell in love with it. It had 4 bedrooms upstairs. And back in them days, you had to go through one bedroom to get to the other. This had its own 4 private bedrooms with a big place like a cubby hole and a powder room upstairs, a fireplace. Anyhow, and they had 50 acres, Scotch tree, pine trees down the back, 1,000 of them, And the gentleman put me. He had a Jeep. We went all around the ground and all that, And when I went back to take Stella back and all that, when Ronnie came home, or came back, and I said to him, I saw the house, And so he wanted to go see it. So we take him back. They didn't even know we were coming, and they were so nice. And took him all around and all that. Well, the next day, we were going to go home. I had the kids packed, and all that. And we were on our way home. And he says, Nancy, what do you think if I try up at Talon, And I said, well, whatever you think, So he went in to talk to them. And next thing I know, time went. These 2 kids were getting irritable, and they were, So I walked them up and down the street, and then there happened to be a little store there. They had this little, crackers, and 6 of them in a little, I got a bottle of pop and 1 package, So we're sitting there, and finally he came out. I said, oh, God, thanks, And he says, I'm taking you back to Stell's. I said, why, And I was wanting to get home. And he says, because I passed, and I'll get hired if I pass my physical. Well, I was in a daze, There's something like, that. So we go back to Stell's, and we wait there, and it got later and later and later. And I knew we weren't going to go that. We were going to go the next morning, And he comes home, and he throws this paper in my lap. And I had no idea what, and he says, what he did was he went and talked to the realtor for that house. And it was they worked it out that we got 2 mortgages. We didn't even have enough money for the down payment, I had no money for the down payment. And the realtor and him picked up the down payment, Mrs. Van Martyr, and then we had to pay on both of them until we got the one paid off, and then all, and he agreed to it. We had the house because he did what he did, I mean, whatever I was glad I married him.
Yeah.
He was the best thing in my life,
Did you love him?
I learned, it was actually, my love is like respecting and looking up to you. I don't know if I call it, Karen, love is different. You can have different, like you love a car. And when people say I love you, they don't.
I love you.
Yeah. Well, that's just a saying, But if I tell you I love you, that's something I don't do unless.
Right. It's a big deal. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we've kind of got to the point where now we're in Meadville. And you liked Meadville because you'd visit Meadville, you'd visit your cousin's parents who lived there, right? And you were driving past the house one day and you saw the for sale sign, you fell in love with the house. And that's kind of how we got to Meadville, right?
Well, it wasn't any relation to me. I would take the friends up there.
Mm-hmm.
Still,
the friends whose
yes,
parents lived there. Okay, that's
yes,
right.
and
okay,
we just went out, and
like, this is a nice
I had to
place.
take.
We're out in the middle of the country, and
Yeah, and well, maybe I took her to Meadville to shop. I don't remember that. We did that, and
Yeah.
and I just said we'll take this road and this, and we passed it going in, and then I said when it was there, I said, oh, let's just stop and see what they have to offer, just something to do, you know. And
So I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. I want to talk about motherhood. Do you remember the day you found out you were pregnant with Keith?
hmm
Tell me about that. What was that like?
I pulled my sacroiliac out. I mean, my back. That's why I'm having problems today too. I was working at the Sugar Bowl, and when you had to bend down and all that, and actually, I was about 4 months, I think, before I really told Ronnie. But yeah, I was working at the Sugar Bowl when I bend over and all that, and when I sweep the floor, you know something's different in there. Every time, four kids, same thing.
And that's when you knew, okay, I'm going to have a baby.
Yeah,
And how did you feel about that? Were you happy?
yeah. Well, yes. Well, after I had Keith and all that, and I told Ronnie, I said, well, as long as I have to go through this with, with Keith, let's have our family, you know. And then we moved up to Meadville, and then I had Kim.
Do you remember telling Ronnie? What was Ronnie like when you said you're going to be a dad?
Oh, he was hoping for a girl, though, I think, when Chris was born, you know. I think I was too down deep, you know, but I wouldn't trade the two boys and the two girls, you know. I mean, they palled around together, you know.
What was Ronnie's reaction? Would you tell me the story about when you told him you were going to have a baby?
Well, we kind of knew what, you know, I don't remember words or anything, just actions. Maybe a hug at that time, I don't know. It could have been, we were close. Back in the days, you don't show affection in front of course it was my family only there, but like out in the
In public.
public, you don't, yeah.
What was your mom's reaction when you told her we're going to have a baby?
Well, yeah, I had them, because Mom and Dad took me to the hospital. There wasn't too many. I really, unless I was too not even looking. Actually, she had, but she favored Keith. I mean, as soon as he was born, she was, yeah, I could tell. And actually, the first time after the hospital, we went up home, up to Mom's house, and she had a card table fixed out for for changing and for bathing, you know, and all that. And when it got time for a little cleanup job on Keith, you know, she did it, you know, and I stood there and watched her. And when and she said, the only thing you have to remember is watch the head. Put your hand under your head, under his head, you know. And when I know that signal, you know, I could. It didn't bother me. I could throw him up you know. I mean, I knew I could hold him.
Was your mom a better grandma or a better mom?
Better grandma.
And what about your dad? Did he even care that he had grandkids?
Dad liked kids when they were first born. He would lay in the chair, pat them, you know, and they'd be on his chest, you know. And then he liked to tease them. I have slides on that. I'm gonna, when I work on them, get settled down and all that, and work on the slides. I have my dad down at his house on Easter Day, you know, with the kids, you know. But yeah, then he'd go and steal an Easter bunny out of Keith's basket and get the kids mad, you know, or. Of course, they knew, but they knew he was teasing, and so they teased back. That was, you know, I mean, it wasn't mad.
Do you remember the moment Keith was born?
Oh, yes.
Tell me about that. The moment you became a mom, how did you feel?
Oh, well, my doctor was in Irwin, and I'm in Pittsburgh, in the Columbia Hospital, and they had a caller. And she was on a case or something, and and they kind of like told me to hold back, and all that, and I would say, well, she better get here, because, and finally she came, and she was like a mother. I mean, she was a nice person. She joked with, you just didn't feel strange with her. You just feel this is a natural thing to do,
Do you remember your first moment with Keith?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, when they brought them to me back then, they had little shirts that they put on, but they have their little fingers enclosed. And I wasn't the first time in all that I ever saw that. I took the shirt and pulled his little arm out because I want to make sure he had fingers, And I laid there, and just admiring him. You know how you, yes. Oh, he was cute.
What was now Ronnie back then? Ronnie wasn't in the delivery room, right?
Oh no.
So what was Ronnie's first moment with Keith like?
Oh, well, I didn't see them when they go up to the window. The men or the other part of the family don't get contact back then.
So the first time Ronnie held Keith was at home?
More or less, I think. Yes, I don't think they would even bring the baby out when he was there.
Okay, so now we're in Meadville.
Yeah.
You've got 2 young children. Do you remember moving into the house?
Into my house? Oh yes. And even before I moved in, they had an auction to sell the person's furniture, and there's a big long story on that, but it doesn't involve anything with me. It was just fun for me to see it.
What's the story?
Well, Stale Point's the reason we were up in Meadville. She saw this. It was like a wash. The ladies always had like a wash tables and all that with drawers and a little place to hang your towels on top. I call it a washboard, but it's
like a wash table.
Yeah, a table more than a board. Yes. Anyhow, I'm just looking. Yes, I saw this out. The person brought him out in the yard up home, and he would walk to it, point to it, and so I said to Ronnie, "Oh, I like that," So he would bid on it, and then this person over there would bid on it. Well, as time went on, she got it because it got too high for us, And she walks up to me and Sal, and she says, "Nancy, I can't get that home right now. Do you mind if I put it in the house?" I said, "You were the one that was bidding against us?" She said, "Yes," and it was funny.
You could have saved her a lot of money and just said, "It's not worth. I'm not bidding against you."
Yeah.
Right. So you love that house, don't you? That first house there in Meadville. You still love it, don't you?
Yeah.
And I know we're not getting into that part, but like.
Oh, that's all right.
You love that house, right?
Yeah, that's all right. I can handle it.
Is that still home for you, or is the house there, Rocky's house, more home? Which one would you talk about where you feel at home the most?
I spent more time I spent over 50 years at Rocky's, and I only had 16 years of Ronnie, and then 5 years or so I married Rocky later, So, but that I wish I could have moved that house over where I am now. Yes.
Right. I got what I said. You like the house better, but Rocky's house is home.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
It's the old. It's Sandy's family's homestead. My stepdaughter, and it's growing up and all that. That over there, it would be better for me to stay there with a store and a post office, and there was a hairdresser that was there at that time, and we could get a runner if we got too old to go to the store, which all the kids wanted to. And then I put in Ronnie and I put in, Rocky and I put in the 20 by 40 pool, and it was a diving pool, so I had all the runners. I had the whole neighborhood in my hand, you know. But so that, and I'd have to have a car if I moved over where. But it's a mess now, though. It's doesn't.
Do you have fond memories of the house? Do you remember Christmases, holidays,
Oh,
and birthdays?
we moved there in November, and the first Christmas I made stockings with the kids' names, the boys' names on them, you know, and put them on the fireplace, and that was a kind of a bad memory. I told Ronnie that put little nails, like little tacks to hold the stockings. Well, he gets a nail. Both of my men were like this for me. I had to watch them. He got a nail that, and he was in the front. The hole's still there. I mean, the dent is still there, you know. And when I saw him do that with a hand, oh, I screamed, you know. I mean, oh, I was hard to get along with.
Did that house? What is your most fondest memory of that house? Your time there at the Ron, we'll call it the Ronnie house. At the Ronnie house, what's your fondest memory?
Oh, every day. I have visions. I had a lot of dreams for that, you know, and all that. Then we put in a garden, put in strawberries and all that. Yes, and we have it's a runoff water from a bad rain, but it's down where we have like a big yard on the side, and had like a creek. When the rain, it was higher. You know, we got more water. And we moved a lot of flowers the whole way down on the yard side of it. Well, it rained real hard and it overflowed, and all the bulbs and everything was down in the pasture. We had the next door neighbor lady had asked if she could put her cows on, but I think that would keep down the weeds and all that too, you know. So that's what we did.
Were you? And I'm not talking about being faithful or anything like. Were you a good housewife?
A good housewife. Well, Ronnie always gave me credit. I mean, I don't know. Well, it was washing clothes and living out of a dryer and let's go skating. You know what I mean? You know, kind of maybe hit and miss sometimes, but then slow up and all that and settle down. But no, I wouldn't know good. Ronnie always bragged about me. You know, he was saying if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have this or I wouldn't have that. You know, and it was because he provided it for me. You know.
Were you a good cook?
A good cook, a fast cook.
If the president's coming over, let's say not right now, but let's say 30 years when you had all the energy in the world and you could skedaddle here and there. What are you making when the president comes over to the house? What was your specialty that you would nail?
What we're going to have today, meatloaf. Well, the hamburger used to be so reasonable back then, you know. But I still don't know how I fed a whole family on a pound of hamburger.